Right, here's a surprise for you. Today I'm going to be looking at the Nintendo Switch again. And what might be an even bigger surprise is I'm going to try and look at it from a positive perspective. Yep, you heard me right. Joe Chip's going to try and find some positives with the Nintendo Switch. And that being said, the first thing I want to look at is a video that was done by Sully over at OneGuy'sOpinion, and I'll put a link into it. In that, he talks about the Nintendo Switch in terms of a gaming tablet and says that if you look at it in that way, it starts to look a little bit more compelling and the price looks a bit more reasonable. And I think if you look at it that way, he has got a point. You know, if you look at the controllers and the fact that you can have them in situ with the device when you're out and about, that's quite a positive for the system. Not many tablets offer that kind of functionality, if any. The only one that comes close is something like the NVIDIA Shield K1 tablet, but then you have to use a controller with it separately, so you can't just sort of sit in bed with it and hold it in your hands and play it. So I do think that is a positive for the device. The problem I have with that is that the NVIDIA Shield offers more functionality, and many other tablets offer more functionality as well. Things like Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, neither of which you'll be getting on day one with the Switch. And whether you'll be getting them down the line, I couldn't tell you. You won't be getting things like the Google Play Store or even the Apple Store, not that you'd expect to get that. And you won't be getting things like Kodi or emulators. So the Switch is quite a closed off system, and that means that it hasn't got anywhere near the functionality. So that's a downside. So even though you can look at it from the perspective of being a tablet and seeing it in a more positive light, it still doesn't stack up in terms of its options. But that being said, what else can we look at in terms of positivity for the system? Well, we've already touched on it just a minute ago, the portability of it. The idea of playing first-party Nintendo titles on the move and not having cut-down versions or specially made versions for that portable is quite compelling. And then the idea of being able to just put it in a dock and play it when you're at home as well, that's quite a positive, I think. And then if you take into account the kids market, it starts to look even better. You know, I'm not that bothered about playing games on the go, to be honest. And not that many adults that I know are. I know there's a hardcore of gamers out there who really like to play on the go, and, you know, they've bought multiple copies of the Nintendo DS and they've bought multiple copies of the Vita. But they're a minority, let's be honest. And they primarily live in Japan. But when you look at kids want to play all day, every day. And if I gave Splatoon to my kid on the Switch and let him go and sit in the back of the car on the way to, I don't know, visit my sister, he'd be very happy. If he could then get out of the car and go and carry on playing it when he was at my sister's, he'd be happier still. If he could then come home, put it in the dock, carry on playing that same game that he'd been playing when he'd been out and about, well, he'd be over the moon. So maybe Nintendo knows something that we don't. And, you know, you do that with Mario Kart and all the other games that hopefully they'll be coming down the line, then that could be something that helps sell the system. The next thing is, we've already looked at the idea of it being a portable console. And if they can sell it in that way and get parents to buy it for their kids, then they're already making a decent number of sales. If down the line, something that I've speculated about before turns out to be true and turns out to be a real device, then that could add to the ability to sell the system. And what I'm talking about there is the SCD, or the supplementary computing device, which is something that's been talked about for a while now. And for those of you who don't know, who haven't seen my previous video, it's an add-on for the system, or maybe, and if they are going to bring this out, I do hope that it's going to be a dock, a replacement dock with more power under the hood. And the specs that were leaked about this suggest that it could be as powerful as a PS4 Pro. So then if this thing is real, and that's a very big if, but if this thing is real and you can sell the console as primarily a portable, and then down the line you bring out a new dock, and that dock brings it in line with the PS4 in terms of power, or even the PS4 Pro in terms of power, well, then you've got a situation where you're selling the console, people are buying the console, they're using it out and about, they're able to dock it, play it, and then you come out with this supplementary computing device which boosts the power to a whole new level and allows you to play those same games at higher res and, with better graphics and so on and so forth, assuming they would be patching the games that they've released. And you would hope that certainly the first party games would get patched to be able to work with this system. Then that starts to look very compelling indeed, assuming they keep the price to a reasonable level. And this is Nintendo, so maybe they wouldn't. But hey, this is all up in the air. This is all speculation. But that could be a big deal. They bring out the console, it rolls out, it starts to sell quite well, and then they ramp up the advertising and they bring out this SCD and it pushes it again. So you get sales, and then later down the line you get another sales boost. Allied to that, if they do get third-party support, and here's a bit of speculation for you, maybe the third parties know that the SCD's on the way. Just imagine for a moment that's the case. And the third parties are thinking, right, well, we're going to hang on for a bit. We'll start to release the odd game here and there. If it's doing all right and then this SCD comes out, we'll start bringing out the games that can run at higher resolutions, at higher frame rates, and so on and so forth. Maybe Nintendo do have a lot of third-party support, and maybe those games will appear, and maybe they might come out around about the time of the SCD. This is all crazy speculation, but it would be a real marketing coup if Nintendo could do that. It would be a bloody surprise to me, I have to say, given their track record. But if they did that, then the Switch starts to look like a very compelling piece of kit, because you've got a console that works with your telly that's very powerful that you can take out and about with you. And then the potential of the Switch comes to fruition. The next thing that might help the Switch is marketing. We all know about the marketing for the Wii U, and it was a complete mess. Nobody knew what the hell it was, to be frank. But with this conference aside and the mess they made of that, some of the TV spots that I've seen have been pretty good. And I watched the Super Bowl ad as well, and that was pretty good. And if they can get the idea of this portable console that you can also use at home into the psyche of the consumer, if they can make people see this as something that is a desirable product, and if they can get the pester power of kids with ARMS and Splatoon and Mario Kart, then it starts to look like they might start getting a decent number of sales for this console. They are still overemphasizing the motion controls. And I've gone on about the motion controls for some time now, and why I think that they're a bit of a waste of time. But maybe, and I'm playing devil's advocate again here, maybe Nintendo knows something we don't. And if you look at the history of Nintendo since the Wii, there's a bit of a gap there. They had the Wii with all the motion controls and all the games like Wii Sports that were very, very popular with the casual gaming market and with people who are a bit more into games as a hobby. But then we got the Wii U, and the Wii U didn't really push the motion controls, didn't really talk about the motion controls at all. It offered something quite different that people didn't really know what it was. And now Nintendo have come out, and I've criticised them for trying to recreate the Wii. But maybe, just maybe, the casual market is ready to embrace motion controls again. Maybe. It's a big maybe. But maybe they are. And I could be missing the point. But we'll see. If the marketing works, if these positive images that we're seeing of the Switch do get into people's psyches and do make them want to go out and buy the console, then again, we could be seeing a console that does good numbers. Very good numbers. So all those things considered, put them all together, we could be seeing a situation where the Switch does very well. These are all ifs, buts and maybes. But who knows? Maybe I'll be coming back here this time next year and saying, oops, I got it wrong, guys. Nintendo knew exactly what they were doing all the time, and I was a complete idiot. There's another maybe for you. But what do you think anyway? Come in the comments, let me know. We'll have a chat about it. And in the meantime, I'm going to do my usual and go and get a cup of tea. And I'll speak to you guys again soon. Bye.